if you're in Puerto Rico and you want to hoist up your national standard, you want to hoist up your flag, or you want to go to someone much like what we do here in Texas and go, "Hey, don't you think Puerto Rico would be much better off as an independent nation?" Boom, it's against the law. What were the penalties? What were the penalties for violating that law, Javier?
The outright penalties were 10 years in prison and or $10,000 fine, which imagine in the 1940s and 50s, that was a huge amount of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you the timing of that's pretty interesting as well, because that was, that comes right on the heels of the United States signing the UN Charter, and you have an explicit recognition of the right of self determination, and essentially what kicked off all the decolonialization efforts. Um, but before we get to sort of beyond the gag law, because obviously it had an expiration date. Um, I just let me just say this, because a lot of what you're talking about sounds very much like the territorial status that Puerto Rico has is very much a relic of the past, right? As you're telling this story, it's very reminiscent of Britain and, say, Ireland, or Britain and India. Where you have these massacres, this use of force, this suppression of the right to even entertain publicly the idea of self government and self rule. This sounds very familiar, but it's a lot closer to where we are in our timeline than, say, India's independence was, or Irish independence, the Irish War for Independence. Uh, would you say that the people in Puerto Rico are looking at this relationship as a bit of an anachronism as well?
Well, of course, many were, but if you were and you were vocal about it, something would happen to you. You would lose your job, you would get persecuted, and if you were too vocal, you would just disappear.
Right.
So there was a climate of fear and terror that that was so strong. It's literally, it was a colonial dictatorship, plain and simple. And that fear was instilled back then. It's still alive today. You still have people who are, if you put a flag up, some neighbors, hey, be careful, something will happen to you. Shh, like you still have that. This is 2025, and
Right.
you still have that, especially older folks. Not too much the younger folks. Older folks who remember that era are still in impregnated with that fear, instilled with
Mm.
that, and it's sad to see that.